Somewhere tonight, someone is going to break the law. Not because they are evil, not because they don't know right from wrong, because someone they love is dying and the only way to save them costs more money than they will ever have. You'd like to think you know what you'd do. Most people do. But the real answer is far stranger than you think. In 1958, a psychologist named Lawrence Kohlberg sat down with a group of children and told them a story. A woman is dying of cancer. There is one drug that can save her, discovered by a local pharmacist. The pharmacist is charging 10 times what it cost him to make. The woman's husband, a man named Heinz, borrows every penny he can find. He is still short. He begs the pharmacist for a discount or to let him pay the rest later. The pharmacist refuses, so Heinz breaks into the store and steals the drug. Should he have done it? Kohlberg didn't actually care about the answer. That's the part almost nobody expects. He cared about the reasoning behind it. Two people can both say, yes, Heinz was right to steal, and be operating on completely different moral machinery. One person says he should steal it because he'll get in trouble with his wife if she dies. Another says he should steal it because human life outweighs property. Every time, no exceptions. Same answer. Different brain entirely. This is where it gets uncomfortable. Kohlberg mapped out 6 stages of moral reasoning, and here's the twist. Most adults never make it past stage 4. Stage 1 and 2 are simple. Avoid punishment, get a reward. This is where children start. Stealing is wrong because you'll get caught, not because it's stealing. Stage 3 and 4 are where most of us live our entire lives. Be a good person. Follow the rules. Respect the law because the law is what holds society together. At this stage, a lot of people say Heinz was wrong. Not because they don't feel for him. Because breaking the law is breaking the law, and if everyone stole whenever they had a good reason, the whole system falls apart. Only a small number of people reach stage 5 and 6. Here, morality stops being about rules and starts being about principles that exist above the rules. A stage 6 thinker doesn't ask, is this legal? They ask, is this just? And sometimes the answer to those two questions is not the same. Notice what just happened. You were handed a framework for judging other people's morality. But it works on you too. Think about the last time you bent a rule. Did you feel guilty because you broke a law? Or because you knew somewhere underneath the law you'd crossed a line that actually mattered? That gap between legal and moral is where almost every real-world crime of conscience story lives. Look at Jean Valjean stealing bread for a starving family, hunted for 19 years by a man who cannot separate the law from justice. Look at whistleblowers who break confidentiality agreements, sometimes federal law, to expose something they believe the public has a right to know. Every single one of them is running Heinz's dilemma in real life, with real consequences, and no philosophy professor standing by to grade their reasoning. Here's where the psychology gets darker. In 1971, Philip Zimbardo built a fake prison in the basement of Stanford University and split a group of ordinary, healthy young men into guards and prisoners. Within 6 days, the guards were humiliating and abusing the prisoners so severely that the experiment had to be shut down. These weren't cruel people before the study. They were college students. What changed wasn't their character. It was the system around them and the roles that system handed them. Zimbardo's point wasn't that people are secretly monsters. His point was that context can override conscience faster than almost anyone believes possible. If a role and a system can turn ordinary people cruel, doesn't it stand to reason that a role and a system can also push an ordinary person towards something the law calls a crime, and their own conscience calls the only right choice? 10 years earlier, a psychologist named Stanley Milgram ran an experiment that asked almost the opposite question. He told participants they were delivering electric shocks to another person every time that person got a test question wrong. The shocks weren't real, but the participants didn't know that, and when a man in a lab coat calmly told them to keep going, 65% of ordinary people kept pressing the button, all the way to a level marked danger, severe shock, simply because someone in authority told them it was fine. Put Milgram and Kohlberg side by side, and something uncomfortable comes into focus. Most people don't break rules because their moral compass is broken. They break their moral compass because they are extremely good at following rules and they never stop to ask who wrote them or why. So who does Heinz actually become in the eyes of the law? In most legal systems, there's a principle called the necessity defense. It's the closest thing the law has to admitting Kohlberg was right. It says a person can break a law if breaking it was the only way to prevent a greater harm, and if a reasonable person in the same position would have done the same thing. Courts almost never accept it. It is one of the hardest defenses to win. But the fact that it exists at all tells you something. Even the legal system, the very thing built to punish rule breaking, has a hidden trapdoor for the moments when the rule and the right thing stop pointing in the same direction. This is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. You have probably already run your own Heinz Dilemma on a smaller scale without noticing. Maybe you've downloaded something you didn't pay for because you couldn't otherwise afford it. Maybe you've driven over the speed limit rushing someone to a hospital. Maybe you've told a small, protective lie because the truth would have caused more damage than the lie ever could. Each time, some quiet part of your brain ran the same calculation Heinz ran outside that pharmacy window. Law on one side, life on the other. And you picked a side, whether you called it that or not. The psychologist Jonathan Haidt spent years studying exactly this kind of split-second moral judgment, and what he found is that most of us don't reason our way to these decisions at all. We feel the answer first, instantly, almost like a reflex, and only afterward does our brain build the justification to explain what we already decided. Heinz didn't calculate his way to that pharmacy window using stage theory. He felt his wife dying and the law became background noise. That's the uncomfortable truth sitting underneath this entire dilemma. We like to believe morality is a court case we argue our way through, evidence and logic and careful weighing. Most of the time, it's closer to a flinch. The reasoning comes afterward, dressed up to look like it came first. So was Heinz right? The honest answer is that the question was never really about Heinz. It was a mirror, built by a psychologist who wanted to see how deep your reasoning actually goes before it runs out. Some of you stopped at, "It's illegal." Some of you stopped at, "His wife would die." A very small number of you kept going, past the law, past the rule, all the way down to the principle underneath both of them. The one that says a human life outweighs a pharmacist's price tag every single time. Tonight, you will face a version of this dilemma so small, you probably won't even register it as one. And the question was never whether you'd get caught. The question is, what's underneath the rule you're about to follow or the one you're about to break?